Here's a sneak peek from today's episode.
You see this kind of like ecosystem where if you do things that release dopamine in the physical space in real time, people remember it because it's rare. And that's what guerrilla marketing is today.
Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Adi. Adi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Adi, I am so excited. Even in just like the few minutes before we started recording, the conversation has been amazing. I love your expertise. I love everything you know. But just to catch the audience up on who you are before we dive into the subject, let us get to know your background and history and all that kind of fun stuff.
For those of you who do not know me, I got my start with the Guerrilla marketing company. We worked with Porsche, Whole Foods, and Target, and a few other big brands. This was pre-social media, so we really had to be creative with guerrilla marketing back then. I did not realize that those things that I worked on were impressive when I was hired by Apple to manage sales on a NATO base in northern Italy, where I actually ended up managing sales and fixing the supply chain for 3 military bases in northern Italy. Doubled sales in a year, which I found out much later is something that was only ever also done by Steve Jobs. And then I went to IE Business School, where they turn whatever you're good at into like your superpower. And after I graduated from IE, I helped a real estate company grow to 108 million in sales in less than 5 years in a market where they had a 90% chance of failure because they had not seen any new entrants in decades. So my bachelor's degree is medicinal biological chemistry. So a lot of the marketing that I do is based on neurobiology, which makes it fun because competitors will see me enter an industry and they think I'm going to use that industry playbook for marketing. And then I use neurobiology and they're not prepared for anything that I do with the company to grow it. So it's made marketing like this very fun rugby game where no one knows which play I'm going to bring with the team. And then I also wrote the best-selling book, Tools of Marketing Titans, and built a marketing strategy software company. The software's now been used by 3,000 companies in 59 countries to rapidly upskill junior marketers. Because I think the faster you can get your junior marketers to become profit centers and learn that marketing should make money, the more everyone wins. They keep their job, they're valuable to the company benefits. When the company wins, the company's giving good things to the local population, so everyone wins.
So you've done everything. So this is incredible. This
Not
is
as much
amazing.
everything. Like I feel like you've done a lot of things too that I haven't done.
Well, it's going to be a fun conversation because we complement each other in our skill sets and all that kind of stuff. We have East Coast, I'm very West Coast, so this will be kind of fun to meet in the middle. But Adi, one of the coolest things that you were telling me, you were telling me a lot of cool things. So this is one of the many things, is some of these guerrilla marketing campaigns that you were a part of, and just like how much creativity went into this, the background that you have, the experiences you had growing up, and how that kind of led to some of these really crazy ideas that when I hear some of them, I'm like, of course you should do that. That makes perfect sense. But until you've seen it, that would have never crossed your mind. We call it guerrilla marketing. It's kind of lost on some of the newer generation of marketers. And you spend a lot of time coaching newer marketers, but maybe just to like start fundamentally, what is guerrilla marketing to you? Like if you gave it a definition, what would it be? And then I'd love to start hearing some of these examples of what guerrilla marketing in practice actually looks like.
Yeah. So the verbiage guerrilla marketing came from guerrilla warfare. So think like that Mel Gibson movie, The Patriot, where him and his 3 sons took out an entire platoon because they had to pretend they were this giant platoon themselves. And so you see guerrilla marketing kind of got its roots there with like these tiny young startups wanting to take on the big dogs, enter a new industry. And they had to do a bunch of these unconventional PR stunts to get people's attention. And they had to grow as quickly as humanly possible before one of the industry incumbents came in to crush them. So their goal was to grow as fast as possible to become something that was an acquisition target rather than put on death's row to be crushed. So with guerrilla marketing, the way I got my start was it was before social media. And if you wanted to market to college kids, you had to take like a gorgeous model and dress them up in like Coca-Cola cans and have them walk across the campus. And people would hear this weird noise as the ball gown of Coca-Cola cans dragged across the ground, and they would turn around and see this gorgeous model wearing a red ball gown of Coca-Cola cans. Or before a Disney movie premiere, we had this other model. We dressed a few models in the movie posters and then just had them walking around campus, the college campus, in the movie posters because there was no geo-fenced marketing at the time. And today, people who still use guerrilla marketing today, they take the cake because so many are used to the digital space and doing things in the digital space that they forget to do anything in the physical space. When, for example, with real estate now, we have these retail spaces. You'll see a retail space and they'll have events that happen at that retail space. Why? So that they have these events or these parties or live music so that people come there. And while people are there listening to the live music, then they'll shop or they'll go out to eat at a restaurant there. And then they drive sales for the tenants. So then the tenants want to stay there because they're getting great revenue growth from that area. So you see this kind of like ecosystem where if you do things that release dopamine in the physical space in real time, people remember it because it's rare. And that's
I
what
love
guerrilla
that.
marketing is today.
That is so cool. Like those examples are like I can just see even now that there's social media, the ability like having that model walking through campus would have generated dozens of TikToks that could have gone viral all over the place. And I love this concept. It feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I hadn't really thought of this before until you started talking about this. It feels like guerrilla marketing is best done in a physical space. And potentially there's virality that can happen through social media and things like that. But some of the most creative campaigns need to take place in a physical space. Would you agree with that? What are your thoughts on that in general?
100%. 100%. And I think something else to keep in mind is that I grew up right outside of New York City. So there's a lot of performative marketing happening in the streets in New York City all day, every day. So I grew up with that being the standard and the norm. And then when you go outside of the city and you don't see it, you're like, oh, if I were in New York City, there would be people promoting this here this way. So yeah, if you'll, there are so many opportunities today for guerrilla marketing, although you do need a sufficient population size in order to see traction with it. So college campuses, office campuses, professional campuses, like if you have all of the offices in a city that people are getting out between 5 and 7 p.m. and you were to do some sort of performative marketing on the street at that time, it would be very interesting, like the results you would see. But I think guerrilla marketing, you hit the nail on the head. It gets the most traction with the social media users. So with the college campuses I think are the right place for it.
So you talk about dopamine and you have this fascinating background in the science and the art and all of that combined. Let's say I'm a business and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, we need to get creative with our marketing. We need to try something. Let's try guerrilla marketing. You're sitting in that room with the team. How do you get them brainstorming and thinking about some new unique ideas to kind of get their name out there, to really go out there in the space? How would you maybe conduct that meeting and help the team start to think about this in a new way?
The first thing I would want to know is what does their target market want to be associated with? Because think about it, like you and I'm sure you have the same sort of personality thing where you'll be asked to go to events and people come up and take a picture with you and you're a static character in their life, but they're going to spend the next 20 years telling everyone about that one time they were in the same room as you, and they're going to pull up that picture to prove it. The guerrilla marketing campaign is the same as a celebrity. You have to do something that people are going to want. They're going to feel like their status is elevated, their perceived value is elevated when they're the one talking about it later. Like, how many people do you think would have taken selfies with the model wearing Coca-Cola cans if everyone had phones at that time? Which, like, the iPhone had just come out a few years before. So some people had iPhones, but not everyone. And I don't even think the cameras were that great at that point. I'm sorry, I'm totally dating us here.
Yeah, I know these times well, 100%. And yeah, these cameras were not good back then.
Yeah. But now if you were to do that same exact campaign where like a beverage company put a bunch of like their cheerleaders or whoever their like influencers are on their college campus in ball gowns made of the beverage company's attire, how many people would take selfies with them? Yeah, so that's, you have to think of what would they want to take videos of, what would they want to take photos of, what would make them feel cool to have witnessed, because if they're going to feel cool having witnessed it, they're going to brag about it later.
I love that. That's super cool. Now, let's say that you are working in an industry where it's going to be really difficult to do something in person. And I know we just talked about like that's the best pathway and everything like that. Is there a way to create like a digital version of guerrilla marketing, or is it one of those things where we just like, hey, people need the human interaction piece. They need the in-person side of it. Or have you ever seen or heard of or done anything like in the digital space that would be somewhat close to it?
So you have the three horsemen in marketing, right? You have dopamine, serotonin, and anger, rage. Those are the three that we use to make something go viral. I don't prefer to use rage personally. I prefer the other two because then I could sleep at night. But you have to, I mean, what you're doing with guerrilla marketing is you're giving people something they didn't expect. They're getting a performance they did not expect. They're walking across a mundane college campus, getting ready for a biochemistry or economics or finance or math exam, looking at the paper that they have due, whatever they're doing, and suddenly they see this gorgeous model walking around in a poster, wearing posters. They're shocked by it, but it's a positive, enjoyable shock. We have the same thing online where you can give people positive experiences that surprise them. Like, how often have you seen, you were born in the 80s?
I was. Yeah, firmly in the 80s.
Guess that accurately. Yes. Okay. So, how often have you seen things that were present in our childhood in the 80s and 90s repurposed into today's content?
All the time.
And they're targeting our age bracket with that because they know it'll release serotonin. Do we love Folgers coffee? No, I would never drink it. But do you remember the jingle from Folgers coffee cup commercials because you were a child when those played?
And I had to
Everyone our age
watch
does.
commercials as a child. Absolutely. Yeah.
Everyone does. Everyone remembers the Folgers coffee commercials, even though we were children. So you have today with if you were to try to do something online and you can't do in-person guerrilla marketing, what you would look for is something that either releases serotonin or dopamine in the person's brain, which means you're having to look for unconventional ways to take marketing material and put it in front of them in a new way. You can't just look at what your competitors are doing and copy it.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's cool. There's like an inherent part of the definition that guerrilla marketing has to interrupt, it has to shock, it has to be unexpected.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of a standard a lot of us don't hold ourselves to, unfortunately. You know, a lot of like what you just said, well, here's some content, here's our post, here's our whatever for the day, and we're going to call it good. I love that there's the shock and awe element to that. And I love how you talked in person, online. You can have that experience. You can have that effect. I love that. There's so many, it's hard for me because I have like a million different questions where I want to go and I'm trying to decide which road to go down because we're almost out of time on this episode. So maybe for this episode, and I might have to have you come back for another one, but for this episode, when you're looking at it, one of the biggest questions when it comes to marketing is how do we track things? And you have quite literally written the book on how marketers tie themselves to revenue. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question. How should we start to think about the ROI and tracking of guerrilla marketing to prove its value and to understand if something has or hasn't worked?
Okay, so the first thing I do when a junior marketer, okay, yep. So I'm managing partner at a real estate fund, but I'm very passionate about economic empowerment. And I do on occasion take a little bit of time off to help people build out their marketing teams. So maybe I'll start my workday an extra few hours earlier or end it an extra few hours late or take my weekend to do something with my friend's company. But I am very passionate about getting junior marketers to be performance minded. And one of the things I tell them when they're like, I want to do this project, say, tell me the 7 KPIs you're going to look at right now that you're going to improve by the end of this project. And They might not pick the best 7 KPIs. They might pick 3 great ones, and then you have to give them the 4 others that they should be looking at. But then once they launch their campaign and you tell them, okay, how are you optimizing those? You launched your campaign yesterday. What are you doing to optimize it? You're giving them ownership. And when they're the ones owning those KPIs, it's amazing how quickly they level up and they step up, because it's an internal force that's driving them to upskill. You're giving them ownership rather than babysitting them. You're saying, okay, well, these are the KPIs today. This is what they were yesterday. What's your plan? And their eyes light up. And they're like, well, I have to learn how to optimize this. Yeah, let's go. What are you going to do to optimize it? Where are you going to get the data from to optimize it? And they start searching. And then you have them by the end of their first project where you had them go this way, where they had their KPIs, they did their project, they did their market research to optimize it. These are the decisions they made in order to improve those KPIs. They put it all into their little report. And then on the final page, they show starting KPIs and ending KPIs. The pride they get from doing that once, you've got a revenue marketer for life.
That is amazing. Okay, I love that. That's so good. Adi, thank you. Thank you for sharing these insights. This has been amazing. If anyone wants to reach out and connect with you online, how and where can they find you?
The best is through social media. I do have a social media team that they have to go through. We do have gatekeepers because there is cyberbullying at this age. I'm sure you experience it as well. So the best way is to go through one of the gatekeepers and share with them what you're wanting to communicate clearly. LinkedIn is probably the best one. Instagram, we keep pretty tight. I know some people are like, they want everyone to follow them on Instagram, and we're very strict about who follows on Instagram. LinkedIn, it's much more open.
Perfect. I love that. Well, and we will link to Adi's profile in the show notes below. Oh, yeah. And we're going to link to the book. This is going to be great. So the word on the street is Amazon is a great avenue to buy this book. So we're going to link directly to the Amazon account right there. I'm excited. I already wrote it down. I'm going to buy this like right after this call. This is amazing. Adi, thank you. Thank you for the time and insights today. It has been absolutely amazing. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been a very fun show. And I'm excited because you already agreed to write for the next edition of the book.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.